Red and blue also go back to Freemason symbolism. In one scene where this is presented to us very clearly, we also see one eye symbolism from the Baron with what looks to be a ruby ring on his pinky. Now this could be reaching, but it reminded me of the ruby slippers in Wizard of Oz, and he is the one with poppy fields leading up to his gate. Another facet of MK Ultra is the jewel or gem programming, and ruby is symbolic in that. I'll leave it up to you to decide if you think that has anything to do with this. In episode 6, the final episode of season 1, we see the monks worshipping a pyramid bathed in light. Now, we don't know much about these monks yet, but I thought this was the most obvious symbolism of all. Even to people who we would say aren't awake. The pyramid has become a favorite point of mockery from people who deny the existence of the Illuminati or the elite, whichever term you feel comfortable using. But we know it's one of their most treasured symbols. After an unfortunate turn of events, Baron Quinn's wife Lydia is thrown from her home and has to make her way back to her original home with her father in what seems to be a commune built on Gnostic teachings. I gathered the idea that it could be Gnostic teachings based on what Lydia's father tells her she has to do in order to get back in. I'll play the clip and you can see for yourself.
I have nowhere else to go. Show your daughter some mercy.
My daughter died in my heart years ago.
No, I know I strayed, but I could be saved. Please, show me how to get back to you.
Neil. Are you willing to renounce all material possessions?
I am.
Will you rededicate yourself to a spiritual path?
I will.
Do you promise never to leave again?
I do.
After being accepted back into the commune, Lydia goes through a cleansing ritual while draped in white with the followers of her father chanting around her. The symbolism in this scene belongs to multiple pagan traditions, some of which we've seen celebrities do with the bathtub ritual. I'll let the scene play out, and you can judge for yourself what you think it means.
Welcome home, Lydia.
Now, the very thing that made me go ahead and decide, yeah, I'm gonna need to make a video on this, was Quinn's speech in the scene where he's talking to MK in his office. Quinn sums up the bulk of what some conspiracy theorists are trying to tell the masses.
Is an illusion. You don't know that. You see that building? Hmm? It was once the seat of power for the entire world. It stood tall in a shining city on a hill where so-called enlightened men
promised their citizens a bright future. A future where impossible dreams could become reality. We live in a husk of a world left to us by these enlightened men. You don't fix it by running. You do it by fighting.
He mentions it as a seat of power for the entire world, not just what was formerly the US. Now, this is interesting to me because a lot of us feel that there's something coming called the New World Order, and that's where all of the world's governments are working together on the same page. So it's interesting that he says Capitol Hill was the seat of power for the entire world, not just the US. He speaks of a shining city on a hill, something politicians have taken to using and is a blasphemous appropriation of what Jesus spoke in Matthew 5:14. He then speaks of enlightened men, which is an obvious nod to the Illuminati, which means enlightened ones. This is why a lot of us continue to use this term to describe them, because it's become obvious they do as well. He says they promise their citizens a brighter future. The Illuminati constantly promise all they do is in the right because in the end it will be better for us. A lot of us don't feel that way. He says they said impossible dreams will become reality. This made me think of all of the agendas that they push on us that at one time someone would say would never happen, such as the transhumanist agenda, or the things that the occult agenda consists of, being pushed as a way to empower oneself.
Life here does not have to be hard. I understand that there's a butterfly you have feelings for. I could catch her for you. The widow's not long in this world. Once she's dead, those girls won't survive without her.
Protect Tilda.
She could live in the fort, and you could be with her whenever you want.
And what about Sonny?
I'd spare him, if that's what you wish.
This scene also seems to portray Quinn as the devil, because he starts to offer MK all the things he could desire in exchange for his allegiance to him. Going back to the scripture where Jesus preached about the city on a hill, the scriptures leading up to that scripture were about Satan trying to tempt Jesus into serving him, much like Quinn did. All in all, it's a phenomenal show, and it stands out from the current bland muck from a lot of our media. However, I recognize that it still has its agenda qualities to it, like pretty much anything we're given today, and I'll keep my eyes open to that. I recommend you give the show a go, but go into it with your research mind open, wide open. As always, this has been Know Our Knowledge, and I'm gonna need you to wake up.